Here's my old school headers and mufflers. Anybody remember that brand? Castler? Performance products. Back in the day. Hey everybody, Larry here, Boxcar's Garage. We are going to be making some better looking frame rails. So, check it out. So here are the primary engine mounts that was on this 289 when I pulled it out of the 34. At first I thought, these are homemade. They're a nice job. But then I found that serial number on it, 3705. And it seems like I remember maybe Hildebrand was making these back in the day. I'm not sure, but I do think that they're a store-bought part, even though they look a little homemade. But we're going to be continue using these, and what we're going to be doing today is some frame repair as a result of, these braces need a little bit of clearance during the install of this motor, is what I found out. So let's talk about that. So I pulled that 289. I left those mounts on the motor when I pulled it from the car. And I'd always wondered about why do they have this notch cut into the frame rail. That's really not a great place for that much of metal removal. I mean, there's a lot of weight and forces happening, with the motor, the front end. There's better places to put a notch than this right here. And I was like, what do they have this here for? Well, when I was moving the motor up and out of it, it dawned on me that they did it so they could keep those mounts on that motor, and probably when they put it in. What I'm going to do, and that mount area does not occupy any of the space that's been cut out and provided for it. Just, I believe, supported the installation with the mounts on. So what I'm going to end up doing when I put the motor back in, I'm going to take those mounts off. So I'm going to go ahead and close this up and make it like it never even happened. I've already done some work on the other side of the frame. There was some chunks of metal from a previous motor. I assume was probably a flathead. This is a chunk that I cut from. This was left underneath the frame rail, like about here. And you could see a little bit of it when you walked beside the frame, and I was like, that's got to go. So it had a piece like this on the other side. I got it cleaned away. I had to do some metal dress up and welding to make that look complete. This side isn't so bad on that particular area. I've got to do a little bit of build up here in these areas. You can see I've kind of partially prepped that. I need to get out the old dental equipment and clean up some more of those rust pockets, and then I'm going to fill that up and grind it out smooth, and we're going to make a template for this and cut a piece of metal for it and weld it in. That's what's on the agenda today. Don't know if I will get to the K-member repair, but we will try. I had to do the same thing over there. Again, that was for the exhaust, but the exhaust wasn't occupying that space. So I'm going to have the exhaust off when I reinstall the motor, and I'll bolt it up after the motor's in place. I can go ahead and close this up and make this nice again and strong, and we're good to go. We're going to get back to this firewall project now, I do believe. I've already got my blank cut out, and I left it a little bit long up here. My thought on leaving it long is that this is where the embossed X is going to go on that side. And if I get any sort of distortion up at the top that I've got a dolly out, I thought I'd go ahead and just leave it long and trim it up to wherever I want it after I get all that done. So that is why that looks the way it does right now. And you would think that this X would be a mirror of this one right here, but that's not the case. They're both they're slightly different from one another, but I'm going to go ahead and put them in the same. So what I'm going to do is make sure that this one right here is just a reverse image over here. And just taking a look really quick, roughly that X is about an inch off. Well, I could get you up here to where you could see what's going on. Well, it is about 7/8 from the inside edge. And when we come over here, I'm going to put you guys up on the tripod here in a second. So we're like an inch. We're an inch out here. And if I would have been thinking ahead, I would have made this patch long enough to where I could have like completely deleted this X. But you see, I've left this little nub here that I've got to match my profile to. And if I pull this thing over, well, then I've got a spot there that I got a problem. So yeah, I kind of painted myself into a corner by the size of my patch. So anyway, we're just going to deal with it. What I'm going to do is take out the silver Sharpie, and I'm going to put an outline of the affected area here of what's currently in the firewall as just a easy visual reference to what I'm marking on this panel. And I think I got this panel marked right, but let's take a look once I get the Sharpie mark on there, and we'll see where we fall. Okay, got you on the old stand. I really need to up my game on stands and light holder things and whatnot. I really do. If you happen to be a YouTuber and you got a good line on, I want one of those stands that has, it's kind of like a boom mic stand where like your support A-frame pole, whatever thing is kind of stood off, and the boom is what holds onto your GoPro or your phone or whatever. That's kind of what I'm thinking. That's what I see a lot of the people use, and so I'm thinking about giving one of those a try. What I'm doing, I'm just putting a mark on the affected area of the embossing, so I'm getting to the base of the shape that's been transferred. And it looks like my lines are coming right up to that, and I got to shoot a center line. My center line yeah, okay. So what I'm going to do, I think I've got to do this from the other side though, because this is the side, this is the back side of the embossing. So, and then this one right here, I don't have any previous raised area here, and this right here that I've already marked out here was a template that I made of the other side, so you can see that that this kind of demonstrates how they're different from one another. Let me put it up on the wall here, on the firewall. I need some more magnets. Yeah. It's not an exact science, even though I'm trying to nail it. It's not an exact science. I think it could be off a tad, but I don't think it's going to be able to see. But yeah, see, there's no embossing that happens here, so it falls short, which is weird to me. You'd think, why can't it be the same? And I'm not going to carry the embossing over in that area. I'm just going to stop it short, I guess. I'll stop it. I'll stop it here. I have no idea where this stopped at, but it really doesn't matter. I'm just going to stop it where I think it looks right, and which probably means I'll take it as far as I can, and I'll leave myself a 1/4 of an inch that I could dress up. I don't want to take the contour all the way to this edge. That would be weird to try to have a straight weld up right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to step in, just come up with my own thing here and step in about 3/8 of an inch to a 1/4. I'm going to step in a 1/4, or maybe a little bit more. I'm going to step in about right there. And I'm going to round that off. And that'll be my deal. Yeah, it'll be fine. There's nobody that's going to stare at that. So I've got to transpose this to the other side, take my lines over to the other side, and then I'm going to be ready to chuck up my new tool. And then I also need to give some thought to what's going to happen here in the center, so we can talk about that in just a minute. I think I'm going to do that though after I do the embossed X. You can see that they previously had cut back about 1 inch of material in this area right here for the transmission bell housing area, and so I'm going to need that again. And I don't know exactly how much I need. So, and then another thing to make it complicated is that when I go and actually set this motor back and do the changes to the driveline, I'm going to be getting back into this area. I'm going to be taking out more. Part of me wishes that I knew exactly how much I need to take out right now, and I could just do it now. but I don't plan on going through that much planning right now. I think I'm just going to try to give myself the minimum that I need to get the motor back in like it was before, and then I'll just go deeper into it when I set the motor back for real. So I've got to decide how I'm going to do that. And I think I had figured out before that I need to take out material 4 inches from center line. So let me establish my center line again. Okay, let's get some lines on that. Some better lines. And we will try to do something. Okay, so now I got to get my reference lines on the other side of this panel, and I'm sure that, you know, with multiple measurements from some references, I could take that over and transcribe and get this pattern laid out on the other side, but for the sake of time, I think this should work out pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and tape this piece of paper to the side of this cowl, and you can see I've got some magnets up here. I've got it referenced with the top part of my patch, and what I want to do is just create some tick marks on this side, and then when I go ahead and pull this panel, I'll place this on the other side and get my design here over there, like underneath the sheet here, to where I can kind of see and check and get it oriented to where it should be. I believe this is where I want to be at. I've figured out my my die that I'm going to be doing this with. I had this made up by a machinist that helps me out once in a while. He makes things, you know, per your design, and this has got basically a receiver. This comes out. This actual die right here is made out of some high strength steel that comes from pins from like Caterpillars and that sort of thing. So it should last really well. I don't know what like the hardness is of this right here, but we'll see. I think it should last me just fine. This piece right here, I forget what he made this one out of, but it's basically just a receiver. This is made out of one piece. You can see he's got some set screws there. My only concern is that like when I tighten this down, I might want to go ahead and drill in some holes to where these can like go into the die a little bit to hold it. I'm afraid it's gonna maybe loosen up and slip out or drop or whatnot, but we'll play that by ear. But this will be the first time that I use this thing, and I'm very hopeful that it's going to work out well, but we'll see together. So I've got my, for that bullseye dot in the middle kind of led me off to line it up with the line on the top and the bottom of each one of the legs. And then when I took my my caliper and I measured, you know, the half radius of my die, and then stepped it back to where I wanted the embossing to stop, I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to put a dimple in each one of those points. Those are my stop points, and then I'm going to shoot a line from point to point as far as the X goes, and that will give me my line of travel for the die. And then I've got to figure out how I'm going to work with the radiuses in the center, and then we should be getting ready to do some stamping. I think this is one of those processes where you could spend like a lot of time on your layout, and I think I'm taking a kind of a speedy approach to this, if you can believe that. And we'll see what results we end up with. You know, I'm willing to accept 85% for this assignment. I think it will, you know, I don't believe it'll be all that noticeable. The big thing, anything goes with these three right here, because there's not going to be any old references left over. In fact, even this is going to go away. So, but this right here, I can wiggle that panel to get lined up with this, and I can also like hammer and dolly to blend in the panel with this remaining piece right here. No problem. We'll get through this. Here's my two pieces of MDF board, and if you see, I'm going to hot glue these things together. I'm going to keep them indexed while I cut them out, so I'm going to cut them out together. And I just took the sander, and you can see where I've kind of put a divot on the panels, on the A panel and the B panel, and that's just going to help me split those up. When I'm done with that hot glue holding things in place, I can split them a little bit easier. And I just picked this MDF up at my local big box store, and we're gonna glue them together now, and then we'll go ahead and get the embossing design stenciled on that and do some holes and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and drill out my holes that I'm going to connect with just a jigsaw, and then I'll dress it up by hand. But Going off of the dimension of my tool die here, these were my two options. This was a little bit small and was kind of like right on the diameter, which I would have had to have probably hand finished it a little bit too much. This right here though lands where I want it to be. It's actually going to give me like a 30/2 of an inch clearance on both sides, and then when I dress it down it'll be fine. I should be able just to make a single run as I'm you know, basically kissing the sides of the cutout, and yeah, so it shouldn't be a problem at all. We're going to go ahead and give this hole saw a shot and see what we come up with. Yeah, well, my form got a little distorted here in this area. But a couple of my takeaways from this exercise is number one, I ended up making some errors in my form, and I got myself flipped around one time. And what it caused me to do is when I had it flipped around, I ended up trimming back an edge to clear this bottom detail. I ended up trimming that off, and then I realized after I got it put back together, I had things flipped around wrong. This short leg was like up here, or it was where it should not have been. So I got things flipped back around. It forced me to trim another edge in order to get the same clearance that I needed from this detail here. And so what I ended up doing was I overcut my template, and it got a little bit weak. Luckily, it held together for this this job. First exercise in doing this the way that I did it, I'm pretty happy with my results. I think that profile wise, I'm pretty good. I think my hammer, the die that actually presses in this embossing, I think I need to get more detail in it. I need to have more of a point. Right now, I think it's a little too shallow. Yeah, this has definitely got more of an arch to it. This is flatter. My die does need to come to more of a conical shape, but we can work that. I'll just get her put up on the lathe, and we'll change the profile a little bit at the end, and we will be good to go. But I can go with this right here. I'm not going to try to redo this. I'm going to tune it up to where this transition from this piece to there looks good. So I need to clean up. I need to define the inside corner a little bit on this top side and on this bottom side. But I think after that, everything will be fine. We can go ahead and cut and weld this into position. I need to trim off this right here. And yeah. Need to do a little bit more work here in this area. Just not much. In fact, I need to hit it with a file. I think I'll do that. And we'll see where we're at. But all in all, let me stand back here and take a look. I think I can handle it. So I am back in the shop getting after it. Today is kind of one of those days I can pick whatever I want to do, because it's my the day we're going to go ahead and celebrate my birthday. My actual birthday falls on a work day this week, which is tomorrow. And so anyway, my family surprised me with a breakfast, a birthday breakfast. And that normally means I can do whatever I want to do that day. So back here in the shop, and you can see I got the old the 34 project here that I've been working on. And thought, why don't I go ahead and put a video together to get myself caught up with you guys as far as what's going on. And I have had a fair amount of distractions here in the past couple of days. Behind me, I've got a new grandbaby on the way, and I had to build I was asked to build a bookshelf thing for the baby's room. And so I used to play woodworker on the side before I got into this whole car thing. And so I realized that my shop is no longer set up efficiently for woodworking, so it's really a kind of a challenge to make woodworking stuff happen. But we got her done, and let's talk about a term that we use in the military called mission creep. And I'm going to define that. I'm going to show you a great example of mission creep and explain what that means to my 34 project. So let's go. If you've been following the build, you know that I was working on some of the repairs that was necessary for the frame, and I got the majority of those done. And I went and started working on the firewall, cleaning the firewall up, and I had to take out, I had a big opening here, made a patch panel for it. It was looking like everything was going to fit up great, and I just about got to welding it up. This is the piece that goes over here. You can see, bam. I was down to the stage of like just cleaning up my margins to get myself a good gap along the edges, and then I started thinking about what was going on, and a couple of stages ahead of me that was going to be getting a lot harder if that patch gets in there and my access or the ease of access becomes less easy. So what I started thinking about was you can see I've got all the electrical kind of just pulled here to the side, out of the way. I've got intentions of welding up basically all these holes and cleaning up my entire firewall area, and then laying out a new electrical scheme and putting my components back on the firewall. And then that, of course, implies that, you know, all my electrical is going back in underneath the dash area. And then the next thing that happens is after you get your electrical in, or maybe right before you get your electrical in, you put in your firewall insulation and panel, you know, and you do all this stuff, and then you realize, or while you're doing it, you realize that I'm going to have to go back into this area to enlarge my cutout for the transmission, because the motor is not setting where it really needs to be, like long-term future. It's so far forward that they had to put a 35-36 front end on this car. They had to cut the main cross member. They had to remove 3/4 of it in order to let the motor go far enough forward to be able to fit it and run it with an early Ford Trans enclosed drive shaft. And then I've got the banjo rear and everything. So they did all this stuff as a modification so it was a big workaround. This whole front end is essentially a big workaround to them being able to drop that 289 in there, which I love the 289. It's a super motor, and I'm going to run it. I got it looking good. Disregard these headers. I picked these up at the recycler the other day. They were thrown in the scrap bin, and I paid $15. No, wait. I paid like $25 for this set of stainless headers here. Will I ever use these? I don't know. I got the motor looking good. It's gonna drop in there eventually, Got the old headers over there that needs to be blasted and cleaned up and painted and whatever. But, okay, let's stay on path here. So, this was kind of a thrown together deal. And as I said, 35, 36 wishbones. And then the axle, if you look straight down here, this axle has been bent. This tube here that I put as a reference only, a visual reference, shows you, I think they bent this axle back in order to get the tire and wheel positioned correctly visually underneath the front fenders. Both of my axle ends are bent basically in the same area. To the same extent. So I think they bent that back in order to, kind of hide what they did. Then what else we got going on here? So I've got a bent axle. I didn't feel great about that. I decided I didn't like if I keep on running this motor forward, I'm going to have to go back and rework like everything on this Firewall. And the electrical is going to have to pretty much come out to do all the major modifications up in there. So I opened this up with the term mission creep. My idea originally for this car was a very sympathetic restoration. Just what I need to do in order to get this old hot rod on the road as quickly as possible. And I'm trying to keep to that to a point. I don't want to have to do a lot of rework in the future. My rework, I don't want it to be like this intensive. So I think I'm going to have to take care of this whole situation now, which what that means is that I need a new cross member. I need to take out these remnants of the cross member. Luckily, this is still in its original position. What's left, my perches for the radiator have never been moved. This forward portion of the cross member, is still where it was before. I can feel the remnants of what was cut away, so I should be able to just, carefully get these rivets out of my way, pull that member, separate it from these perches, cut out this farmer solution here, and start over. And I'm thinking about starting over with this Model A cross member. The biggest things that I have to do with it is probably cut out this gutter, which is typical. And then I need about a 1/2 inch extra here on both of the ends in order to make it to the back of the wall here on the cross member. This one right here, I have no idea what that's from, but it's like got the proportions of 1940s and later. I was just kind of looking at it from the standpoint of if I wanted to go like crazy and cut it apart and flatten it out. I do have it available to me. It's a pretty decent front cross member, and it could be modified into something even flatter than what is typical to this Model A. But I haven't decided, if I want to go that route or this route. Yeah, so got the cross member situation going on. I've got to decide what am I going to be doing as far as, split bones versus hairpin versus 4-link. Correct me if you know any better, but I always associate 4-link with something like 70s. And while I know the performance as far as handling on the front end is seems to be, really good with a 4-link, I just don't think that it plays well with a period hot rod. But you could say that, well, why are you worrying about period hot rod, Larry? You got, you're putting a 289 in there. This is 1966. You're contemplating putting in a T5 transmission, which is definitely not period, but so yeah, you know, under the surface, there's going to be a couple of things hidden in there. The transmission really, that's my only plan right now, is that breaks the club of period hot rod. But anyway, I want an overdrive. My options are, you know, trailer the car or drive the car. And if putting in a T5, giving me the overdrive, enables me to go on a longer trip, you know, and keeps me from trailering the car, then so be it. You know, in the end, I'm enjoying the car more. So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking about doing. So, I believe my immediate game plan is going to be to get my front end redone. Now, let me talk about the front end contenders. My choices of front end components. This is kind of interest, I think. I bought this basically a parts lot here. Ended up with some really desirable things here. I got a 32 heavy axle that was old chrome that may or may not be able to get cleaned up. I polished it up a little bit. You can still see the chrome. It does have a little bit of loss as far as the plating, but not too bad. It's never been dropped. I wish it was dropped. It's also got some interesting Dodge F1 lookalike shock mounts here, which the Dodge is unique when it has this detail right here, whereas Ford, it was all like round to here, and then it was round, and then you had another boss for a bolt like right here, and then it stopped. The Dodge goes to a flat, so that's kind of a neat F1 perch for a shock. And then you've got this is a really trick mod for back in the day, I think. This is a 35-36 end for the wishbone, and they have welded in and sculpted these bosses that hold on to a 32 spring perch, and I'm assuming that is a 32 spring that is sitting there. So I'm definitely going to be saving this right here because this could be used again. It's unfortunate that it was cut off, but I believe I remember seeing a picture of this. There was some damage that happened. There was a wreck that happened with this vehicle, and I think these were bent up pretty badly. So the guy I bought it from just hacked them off right there. But I'm glad to have these right here. These could be recycled to another set of wishbones, and you would have like a ready-made option as far as a spring behind option that you don't normally find. So pretty creative solution to a couple of things, one of which is just getting it lower. You can see how much lower that would have enabled this front end. You've got, of course, the axle, and then the spring. The spring is up about right here in its resting position, which, you know, if you're doing a conventional spring over the I-beam, you have got, your spring is up a lot higher typically than what this setup is. So it gave the individual a little bit of drop is what they achieved out of that right there. And so it's kind of a cool look, kind of some period. We can make this happen kind of stuff right there. But I'm going to recycle the spring, the axle, and those perches, and do a conventional spring over on the 34 there. So probably going to harvest that stuff right there. Square back spindles, not bad, pretty nice. I don't know if I will use these this time around. I've got some round back spindles that I'll probably end up using. And yeah, so this was a steal at $150, $125. I paid for all this right here. And it's not uncommon to pay like $75 to $90 for a decent set of shock mounts. So you take that into consideration with a heavy 32 axle, spring, the perches, these customized ends, it's like a crazy deal. And I always like to end up that way. So anyway, where are we at? Where are we going? So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video, spin you around here. We'll sign off. And yeah, so a lot going to be going on with the car in the future. And I apologize. This is just the inevitable. These projects have a life of their own, and the car tells you what it needs. And it is what it is. So we're going to keep on making things happen on this cheer, and keep on rocking and rolling and rolling and rocking. What Rocker Pat says. Check out Rocker Pat. He's a friend of mine in Texas. He's a hardworking man, and he's got a good channel, got good content. So shout out to Rocker Pat. I haven't talked to you in a while. Keep on rocking, brother. See you guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.